FBP family, please help me welcome Michael Hughes to the Fitness Business Podcast today. Michael is a functional movement specialist, and he's also the CEO of Gymnazo EDU. Michael, welcome. Thanks for coming on today.
Thanks for having me. Appreciate it.
Yeah, we had a lot of fun last week when you did your quick fire 5 questions. You gave a great book recommendation, and Elon Musk was the business brain that you'd like to pick. Good choices there.
Thank you. Appreciate that.
So you're coming to us today from sunny California.
Mm-hmm.
You said you're located right in between San Francisco and LA.
Yeah, beautiful sunny spot called San Luis Obispo.
All
I
right.
actually think Oprah said it's the second most desirable place to live in the world.
Ooh. Well, we all know what Oprah says is, written
I
in
mean,
stone too, right?
exactly, right? Exactly.
So we brought you on today. We loved your topic. We thought it was creative, fresh, and new, and definitely also something that would be very helpful to our FBP family out there. And that is 7 skills an elite trainer needs to master.
Mm-hmm.
Interesting topic. I can't wait to dive into it.
Well, happy to.
All right.
Ready?
Yeah, I think we're ready. Like ready, set, go.
I'm excited. I'm itching.
All right, so here we go. Let's have you divulge the 7 skills. Go ahead and take it away.
All right, so this is in no particular order, but a elite trainer needs to know how to conduct a movement assessment. They need to have the eyes to see mechanics. Excuse me, the eyes to see mechanics, almost like they're watching it in slow motion. An elite trainer needs to know how to problem solve for musculoskeletal dysfunction, an MSD, basically, pain with movement. Movement that is not efficient or pure, that will eventually bring up either lack of performance at its least, but at its most, a debilitating injury that takes them out of fitness. A trainer needs to effectively motivate and communicate to all different client types and their personalities. We typically find that this personality of the coach is also the personality of the gym. And as a great coach would say, you are a chameleon to your athletes, and that you can connect to them the way that they need to be spoken to versus the way that you only know how to speak. So to me, that's a great coach. Fourth thing, we need to bring a 5-star experience. Fitness is well known for at least a 2 or 3-star experience. This garage gym setup is, well, good for now, but bad for tomorrow. We need to make this an environment that people are excited to come to, where it's clean, it's sanitary, it's safe, and it's just like they're treated when they go to any sort of establishment that values the long-term application of the client versus just a short-term buck. So 5-star experience is a huge thing. We also need to program sustainable workouts. Sustainable workouts means for the rest of their life, not just for a year or 6 months. Our program needs to be not only just sustainable, but it needs to be holistic. It needs to have restoration and performance built in, warm-ups and cool-downs applied every time, not just some of the time. The goal is not just to have a client you could, again, have for a few months, but again for the rest of their lives. So the program has to match that. The 6th one is we need to masterfully tweak. We use the word tweak like modify. We need to tweak exercises to mitigate dysfunction in real time in a workout. And we can't solve for those things in a workout, but we must know biomechanics, applied biomechanics so well that we don't have to bench our clients in a workout by saying, oh, it's a jump rope. Oh, how about just go do some push-ups? No. That's a completely different change to what your program intended. So we should be able to know how to tweak exercises enough to mitigate dysfunction in real time. And the last one, probably one of the most important ones, is we need to continually seek and learn new methods and strategies to incorporate. But first, we need to understand the principles of human movement. So basically, we have to have an open mindset, we have to be a growth mindset, and we have to be constantly be thinking there's more to be learned and more to be excelled at.
Okay, so let's just review the 7. really quickly. One was assessment, right? Movement assessment.
How to conduct a movement assessment.
All right. Number two, problem solve.
Problem solve for musculoskeletal dysfunctions.
Awesome. Number three, effectively motivate.
And communicate. Yes.
Good. Number four is the 5-star experience.
Yep.
Okay. Number six, sustainable workouts.
Yep.
Okay. Seven, no,
No, five was
five
sustainable
was
workout.
sustainable workouts.
Yep.
Six, what is being able to masterfully tweak workouts.
Exercises in a workout. Yep.
Okay, good. And the last one was seek and learn new methods.
Yep.
All right. So there's our 7. Now, what I'm going to ask for you to do for our FBP family out there listening is to take 3 of those. I know they're all critical, right? And they're all equally important, but let's take 3. And did I say something wrong?
No. I was just
Sure. Okay.
jabbering with you. Sorry.
All right. Pause. Okay. I know that all 7 are critical, but let's just take 3 and dive a little deeper into them. So which 3 would you like to select?
I'm going to have to start with needs to continually seek new methods and understanding, because without that one, none of them really make sense. So we're in an industry that is literally bubbling with new technology. We're also in an industry that loves to stick with what has always worked. And if you stick with what's always worked, that's going to be your kryptonite as a trainer. We are still stuck, unfortunately, in the hypertrophy bodybuilding method of training and conditioning. That fitness is looking good, but has very little to be actually moving good or performing efficiently in daily life activities. We got sport down pretty well, but that's like 0.01% of the population. So there's so much information coming out that unfortunately goes against a lot of scientific, quote unquote, medical journals, scientific rhetoric, or even what I even learned in my graduate studies and my undergraduate studies as a exercise scientist. And so it's so confusing, because what I was told from a professor is literally what I do not do today. So I had to actually unlearn my education, not all of it, but a good chunk of it, especially the biomechanics part, and then relearn how to do it effectively. But unfortunately, it's being frowned upon by that same community because it's not backed by an appropriate double-blind study with XXY. And so it's really interesting that our community is being slowed down out of fear of change, even though the change, its results are very obvious. So we have to be open-minded. Even if we don't believe it, we still have to essentially try it, because this fixed mindset understanding of our industry is, unfortunately, it would be its demise. We will change, I know it. So we have to be open-minded about new technologies of the human body.
I agree with you. I mean, that you see in any profession, what do they always say? If you're not, constantly changing, then you're behind.
Yeah, exactly. And so if we wait for a medical study to come out, the key word is we're waiting versus being proactive. And every industry goes through its evolutions. Every industry builds new technology. And it's very interesting that for some reason we've seemed like we've figured out the human body, which is, you ask anybody that off camera, quote unquote, and they'll say, no, of course not. But yet again, we're being hamstrung in our ability to test and achieve a greater level, because it doesn't fit in the framework that they must believe. And it's really interesting because it's a very egotistical thing. Like, they don't want to be ostracized. They want to be kicked out of the camp. They still want to put their findings in this journal, and it has to follow along the same pathway. And it's very interesting to step back and look at it and realize that capitalism will always win, in a sense. And I mean the good side of capitalism. Like, if we can profit from it and deliver transformational results that the client wants, I think that, wants and needs is very important, then that should also be looked at as intensely as the research, quote unquote. Hence why I said Elon Musk, because disruptive innovation, it's going to prove itself to be, I don't want to say the word correct, but better. There's no such thing as perfection, but pursuit of excellence is what we should all be thinking about as we continue to educate.
I always think the demise of a trainer or really anybody in the fitness industry is when the ego says, "Oh, I've been doing this for so long. I don't need to go to a conference or I don't need to go to a workshop or, I'm busy enough. The way that I do things works." And I just am always like, yeah, there is truth to that, but my gosh, there's just so much to learn. I mean, even your clients that you've been training for 10 years don't think they want to hear even just new vocabulary from you.
Exactly. And I've lived that. I know exactly. I've said that. I've actually said those exact words. I don't need to know anything more. And that right there is the most dogmatic trigger that you should ever have in your entire life. And once you say that, you should be scared. You should be really, really scared. And it's fascinating because at the very least, we should get results faster, more efficiently, less cost. What I really, really hope is that trainers don't become a slave to their trade. And that's really what kind of happens. They get burnt out, they don't get family time, they don't make enough money, or they have to work to make money. They have to physically be in front of somebody to make money. And their leverage is just not there. And that's why I believe there's very few career trainers. A lot of few yearsers, a lot of 10-yearsers, but it's a hobby job. And that will be changed.
I hope so. And I always say, listen, imagine if your physician says, "I don't need to learn anything new. I know it all." You'd be a little nervous, right? We'd be like, "I don't know.
Yeah.
All right. So I think
Exactly.
we've got that one down pretty well. Good, positive, great in-depth explanation of that one. What are you going to pick as your second one?
Second one we're going to go after is we need to program sustainable workouts. Again, if you follow the evolution of fitness, it kind of really started with bodybuilding. Now, Arnold Schwarzenegger is someone who I have on a poster on my wall. I don't want to discredit that. But that is purely non-sustainable. Isolating out joints in any machine, in any application, only accelerates the degradation of that machine. It's just that simple. And unfortunately, hypertrophy training, if though it does get muscles bigger, it doesn't necessarily provide them more function. It actually reduces function, meaning effective and efficient movement for life. That's what I mean by function. So our training has fallen into these two camps: get bigger muscles or burn calories, and kind of do that however you want to. And unfortunately, as we look at that, and I guess the third kind of triangle camp in this one is train like a professional athlete, which also professional athletics, by definition, is not a sustainable activity because we can't do that for life. So as we burn calories any way possible, that's great. I'm glad we're building relative health at the heart and the lungs, but what are the joints doing about that? And so as we jump up for hours, we're on a row machine, or on a treadmill, we're doing Olympic lifting ad nauseum, we're missing what the body's critical application is. And it's multi-dimensional, meaning forward, back, side, rotate right, rotate left. And then also, it's intention based. We move based upon how we intend, or what is our intention of our programming. And if we burn calories, we will do that. If we just want to build big muscles, we will do that. But what is the end result? And I'm not just talking about the end result in a year or in a month, but I'm talking about what's the end result in 10, 15, 20 years, 30 years, because we all have a life to our joints. And yes, we can replace some of them, but the replacements are never as good as our original parts. So with the program saying, like, I'm going to give it very detailed here, I don't think people should work out harder than 70, maybe 75% of their intensity for the majority of their life. If you want to go hard, like good 90, maybe even 100% once in a while, once a few weeks, of course, test your boundaries. But other than that, our life dictates how we train, but our training is way overburdening how we actually live life. And we actually I don't use the word destroy, but degrade ourselves much faster. And then we say, gosh, I can't work out anymore. My knees are too shot, or my shoulders hurt too much, or my lower back is getting something called like my spine's collapsing. These use terms, right? It's our problem is with our training conditioning is just too low tech. So let's be smarter about it. Let's not work out harder. Let's work out smarter.
Excellent advice. And your clients will only think more highly of you because, again, the goal is to keep your clients. And over years and time, your clients, their bodies change. My body's completely changed. And the way I need to be trained and pushed is different than it was even just 5 years ago.
Yeah, and a lot of us start out with relatively clients that are capable and able.
Mm-hmm.
And we can give them anything, and guess what? They get better.
Mm-hmm.
Well, what about your client who hits, really, when you hit 40, and neither of us are there, we're both close, but neither of us are there, our muscle connective tissue literally starts to go through a change. And I don't think we realize that our elasticity starts to, it doesn't grow back as fast. And so we're giving drills and techniques to people too quickly. Too quickly is the fate. Not just you can't, but too quickly. We progress fitness way too quickly. And unfortunately, it may be fun. Gosh, it is fun, but fun is long-term.
Well, I appreciate the fact that you have me under 40, but if you noticed, I said the last 5 years. There's a little clue on how old I am, but
Yeah,
all right.
fair enough.
All right. Well, I'm really anxious, and I'm sure our listeners out there are really anxious to see out of the ones that are left, what you're going to pick for your third one.
Probably the second most important under just learning, but we have to be able to solve for musculoskeletal dysfunction. The trainer of tomorrow needs to be a movement engineer. They need to be able to reverse engineer movement dysfunction and pain. Now, I can hear people saying, "Oh, that's what a chiropractor or physical therapist does." That's what they try to do, but unfortunately, the industry is falling short. I'm not saying individuals are falling short. There's amazing physical therapists and chiropractors out there. I know them, and I've studied underneath them, but the industry is falling short. The schooling, I've talked to many physical therapists coming right out of doctorate grad school, and I'm not impressed. I'm just, unfortunately, with their $100,000 of debt, I'm not impressed. It's sad. It actually is relatively sad that that's the knowledge that they come out with because it's protocol based. Oh, you have a rotator cuff injury. Here's the protocol that you should do that fits the bell curve of our statistical evidence-based findings. Well, I'm sorry, you only tested a few thousand people, if that, more like a few hundred, and most people live outside of the bell curve. And so what are you going to do about when that internal rotation band exercise doesn't work? The problem-solving critical thinking is just underdeveloped. So we have to look at the body as a structural piece, like we look at a building. The foundation, the feet, super important. We have to understand how every single joint moves in all three planes of motion in systematized harmony of every other joint. Because we can't just focus on the hip and think it's all by itself. We can't just focus on the foot, think it's all by itself. Then we have to understand how the muscles move in all three planes of motion, not from just a strength building, but from a lengthening building aspect as well. And then we have to play into it how we actually think the biosocial or the behavioral science aspect of someone's mind and soul also heavily dominates their movement patterns. And if we can do that, which we can do that, I know it seems quite complicated and overwhelming. To some it is. To me it was. But now it's like, oh, wait a minute. There's literally systems of how our body works in this harmony. And you throw a little you kind of throw a pebble in the water, right? It starts to expand out. Our job is to reverse engineer and bring into the source of it. Because where your knee pain is, it's not where your knee pain's coming from. Unless someone hits you with a baseball bat in the knee. That's a different story. So movement-related injuries dominate our industry. And if we can't reverse engineer it by understanding not traditional biomechanics we learned in school, it's too simple, it's too mathematical, it's too simple. We have to understand the complexity about every joint is connected together, and how all the things I've said previously fall into this dysfunction that could have been there for years, and we have to figure that out. It's really it's being a detective, truly. But you can't shut the system off. You can't just turn the engine off and replace a part. You got to do it while it's still alive and still moving. If we can do that as a greater industry, like I said, we will revolutionize health. We won't solve all problems by any means, but so many things stem from movement, exercise base. Yeah, it'd be crazy. Just think if diabetes was gone. It's gone. Strains, sprains, joint replacements decreased by 50%, 75%. Overweight, nutritional, obesity, not even an issue. Fitness doesn't solve for those things, but significantly helps. And most people don't exercise because it hurts.
Yeah, I can't agree with you more on that one. And, then we throw in the whole mental aspect of physical fitness and what it does for our mind as well as our body. And
absolutely, if not even more powerful.
Yeah, I just don't know how you just can't engage in that at least a few times a week because it's so good for you.
Yeah, so what I would love to see is that all trainers, especially those who see themselves as, the top level, is that their programming, their facility, their mantra has to incorporate restoration. To call it therapy, I get it. There's an ethical side of this if you're licensed or not licensed, but restoration is a term we can all use. And if we don't provide that as a solution, an option for our clients in every workout, or at least in your group of programming, then you're missing the biggest opportunity in this industry, because retention is about keeping your clients. And the major one reason why people leave their facility, besides they move, ran out of money, what cases it's that they are in discomfort. And discomfort isn't just pain. It could be it's too much, it's too intense. A joint may be able to manage it, but for how long? So there's so much deeper I can dive into that one, but that's right off the surface of what it means.
All right, Michael. Well, thank you so much. Those 3 were fantastic. I wish we'd have time to go through all 7, but if anybody out there listening wants to learn a little bit more about the rest of the 7 skills that Michael discussed, please feel free to reach out to him. I will have all of his contact information in our show notes. So, Michael, you might get inundated with questions. I hope you don't mind, from our FBP family.
Bring it on, please.
There you have it, everybody. He says, bring it on. Michael Hughes, thank you again for coming on to the Fitness Business Podcast and sharing your expert advice with all of our family. We really appreciate it.
You're very, very welcome, and thank you for having me.
Okay, section 2, check that off of the list. Great job. Cool. Okay, our last and final piece is the Fitspitspiration question. Okay, that is a sponsored question for us. This is how it's going to work. My question to you are, what are your 3 tips to instilling these 7 skills into a team? Okay.
Yep.
It's really like tip 1, tip 2, tip 3, or first, second, third, or however you want to put it. It's only about 2 minutes long. That's about it. And there's no follow-up. So once I'm going to ask you the question, you get your time to answer it. And then when you're done, just pause so I know that you're finished. Okay?
Awesome.
All right, here we go. Let's count us down in 3, 2. Hey, Michael, I'd love for you to give us your 3 tips to instilling these 7 skills into a team.
First tip, get a coach to mentor you. Athletes need coaches, and coaches need coaches. Second thing, don't be afraid to try something new, knowing that you're going to miss the mark, if not fail, if not cause someone some more dysfunction for the sake of your betterment and the long-term success of that client. The third, don't practice in isolation. You have to join a community, whether it be virtual or not, of other trainers looking to push the boundaries and educational capacity of this industry.
Okay, that was easy. Fantastic. We're done.